Good afternoon, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you for coming back. I always appreciate your presence. Today is March the 6th, 2023. I have several news updates to share with you. Thank you for coming back. It has been a while since I did my broadcast last time. So due to busy life, such thing happens. So many updates, including the controversy over Adwa celebration in Ethiopia, uh, the incorporation of Oromia zones into different zones, creating, agenda for Oromos in Oromia region. So many news happened, but I couldn't have time to cover it. Even life is lost due to this reshuffling of Oromia zones into different zones. This is the Prosperity Party, created instability or agenda for the Oromo people. But the good thing is, thanks to the media, various media coverage, starting with Oromia Media Network and other, individual social medias, plus Ethio 360, and now the government of Ethiopia media, owned by Prosperity Party, giving wide coverage of Borena hunger and drought. Thanks to the push by these social media and uh, individual social uh, journalists, now aid is pouring. Is very encouraging for the Borana people. Yes, it is too late to save the millions of livestock we lost, but it is encouraging sign to save what we have now, especially the human lives. So thanks to all of you, those who covered the crisis in Borana, the hunger and the drought. The, we appreciate all the media coverage, but the government still, doesn't recognize it, even though they are sending uh, humanitarian aid and encouraging their media to report about it. Officially, it's not recognized, and it didn't call on international community for help, especially at the federal level. They tried to cover this serious problem for more than 2 or 3 years, even punishing journalists who try to cover it. So now it's out of their control. It is getting international coverage, and thanks to again Ethio 360, Oromia Media Network, Oromia 11, and other social media and other media coverage. So the humanitarian aid is reaching to the people, and individuals and government agencies, companies, religious institutions are fundraising and sending money to Borana people. They are reaching out. So it is very encouraging. I'm happy to report that it's very encouraging. It should continue to save what is left. So in Minnesota, according to the report I got from that area, religious institutions, especially on Monday, no, Friday, prayer organized fundraising for this cause, and more than $200,000 is ready from the Minnesota diaspora community organized by the religious institutions. In St. Louis, Missouri, even though it's a very small Oromo community and their supporters, they raised about $6,800 for this purpose. So they already sent 6,300. Now they are also preparing to send the remaining money. So it's very encouraging. I don't have the report about other Oromo diaspora communities and other supporters for this purpose in other states. If I have, I will report it, but I don't have it. So, but in general, internal fundraising and external fundraising is very, very encouraging for the Borena people, and I'm happy to report it. To mention some, I have on the video too, the Sinke Bank fundraising or donation for this purpose. But this is individuals and the government agencies. For example, Water and Energy Minister and Transportation and Logistic Ministry. These two almost donated 15.5 million worth of food items and other essentials for Borena people. Two doctors, local doctors in Borena area also organized fundraising, and they helping especially students who do not have fund to go to colleges and universities. So they raise 100 million birr to support those students who the family cannot support them. I will mention their name: Dr. Gadamu Jarso and Dr. Samson Ishetu. These are local doctors, organize the fundraising for this purpose and especially help the students who really need help. And you will hear the Sinke Bank also donating 115 million Ethiopian birr. So it's very encouraging, very positive news to save the remaining livestock and humanity. So it's encouraging, and the international community also should do more for this very catastrophic humanitarian crisis in Borena and Guji. So very encouraging news, and please continue with your prayer and fundraising for these people. When we speak up, when the media speak, and when we share the news, we can force the government to take it, whether he like it or not. So they tried to hide it. It didn't work. It created damage. But now everything is open and the help is heading to Borena. So thank you. Let's continue with first video I have about Sinke Bank donating 115 million birr for this purpose, and continue with reading other news items. Thank you again.
የሚሆኑ ተከታታይ የዝናብ ወቅቶች ናቸው ያለፉት። በዛ ምክንያት አካባቢው በጣም ተጎድቷል። እንግዲህ ድጋፎችም እሱ እንዳለን የተለያዩ የመንግስት ተቋማት እንዲሁም ግለሰቦች እያደረጉ ይገኛሉ። ባልደረባችን በረከት ተካልኝም አሁን በሰጠን መረጃ የሲንቄ ባንክ እንደዚሁ በቦረና ዞን በድርቅ ለተጎዱ ወገኖች ወደ 115 ሚሊዮን ገንዘብ ድጋፍ አድርጓል።
ባንኩ እንግዲህ ከተቋቋመ አጭር ጊዜ ቢሆነው ማህበራዊ ኃላፊነቱን እየተወጣ ይገኛል። የባንኩ ፕሬዚዳንት ንዋይ መገርሳ ባንኩ ላለፉት 25 ዓመታት በማይክሮ ፋይናንስነት በገጠር ያለውን የህብረተሰብ ክፍል ሲያገለግል መቆየቱንም ተናግረዋል።
እንግዲህ በዚህ ምክንያት የህብረተሰቡን ችግር በሚገባ ይረዳልም ሲሉ ነው ፕሬዚዳንቱ የተናገሩት። የህዝብ ባንክ እንደመሆናችን የተፈጠረውን አጋጣሚ ኃላፊነታችንን ለመወጣት እድል የሰጠን ነውም ሲሉ ተናግሯል። እንግዲህ ወደ ባንክነት ካደገ 10 ወራት የተቆጠሩ ሲሆን ከ7000 በላይ ሰራተኞችን ይዞ ከ500 በላይ ቅርንጫፎችን እንደዚሁ በአጭር ጊዜ ውስጥ መክፈት መቻሉን እንደዚሁ በስጦታ ስነስርዓቱ ተናግረዋል።
ባንኩ በዛሬው ዕለት 115 ሚሊዮን ብር በቦረና ዞን በድርቅ ለተጎዱ ወገኖች እንዲደርስ አስረክቧል። ድጋፉን የተረከቡት የቦሳ ጎንፋ ዋና ስራ አስፈጻሚ ሙስጠፋ ከድር የተደረገው ድጋፍ የተፈጠረውን ችግር ለማቃለል እና እየተደረገ ያለውን የሰውና የእንስሳት ህይወት የመታደግ ስራ እንደሚያግዝም ነው የጠቆሙት።
በተጨማሪም ድርቁ በቦረና ዞን ብቻ ሳይሆን በአጠቃላይ 10 አካባቢ የሚደርሱ ቆላማ የሆኑ ዞኖች ላይ የተከሰተ መሆኑንም ሲያነሱ የሚያስፈልገው ድጋፍ ከጉዳቱ ስፋት አንጻር አሁንም ብዙ የሚቀር በመሆኑ እየተደረገ ያለው ድጋፍ ተጠናክሮ እንዲቀጥል እንዲሁ ዋና ስራ አስፈጻሚው ጥሪ አቅርበዋል። እንግዲህ ይህን መረጃ ያደረሰን ባልደረባችን በረከት ተካልኝ ነው። እናመሰግናለን። እሱ
ጠቅላይ ሚኒስትር ዶክተር አብይ አህመድ በኳታር ዶሃ በተካሄደው
I'll come back to that one. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed is in Qatar, Doha. So that's the encouraging news. As I said, everyone, every different agencies, private companies, the diaspora, business owners, everyone, contributing for the Borena, and the religious institutions are calling on followers to support. So it's very encouraging. So this is the video is talking about Sinke Bank, which is about 10 months since its establishment, and it has within 10 months it got 500 branches and about 7,000 employees, and it's doing its part, contributing 115 million birr for this Borena. So it's very encouraging really. Especially the media coverage deserve a major credit. OMN, or especially OMN and the other social media, small ones, they did start covering the crisis almost 3 or 4 years ago, while the government of Ethiopia hiding and preventing media coverage. And the damage, as reported, more than, I think even the government reported numbers, like more than 3.3 million livestock lost due to this hiding the problem. It's just denying the reality. Prosperity Party is about prosperity, not about negative impact. So that's the encouraging signs, and concerned citizens media is happy to report about this positive development on Borena aid. Let's continue with other news. Thank you again. Here we go. This is about Tigray region. Amidst rejection from opposition groups, Tigray concludes establishment of IRA, awaiting negotiated deal with federal government. But this is now rejected or dismissed by Getachew Reda for Tigray region senior official. They say this didn't happen. Let me read anyway. This is from Addis Standard. The Tigray region has announced that it has finished preparation to establish interim regional administration, IRA, pursuant to the Pretoria Peace Agreement reached between the Ethiopian government and the TPLF in November last year, and it is awaiting to strike a negotiated deal with the federal government on the IRA's interim regional administration. The process of establishing an interim government has been concluded from Tigray side. The next step is to negotiate with the federal government. Deputy Chairperson of the IRA Establishing Committee, Mulwork Kidane Mariam, told Addis Standard. According to Mulwork, after conducting various tasks, the committee of 9 members set up to oversee the establishment of the IRA held a 2-day conference since 2nd March, and 400 representatives from across the region have taken part in the formation of the IRA. Muluwork said everything, including who will hold what position, has been sorted out, adding that power sharing among the ruling TPLF, the military, opposition groups, and scholars have been agreed upon. Despite efforts, according to Muluwork, to make the IRA inclusive, the conference, however, was boycotted by the 3 major opposition political parties operating in Tigray region, who also invalidated the establishing committee from the get-go. The parties, Tigray Independence Party, Salsai Wayane, and the National Congress for Greater Tigray, in a joint media briefing on 16 February, announced that they will not accept the committee that will oversee the establishment of interim regional government, adding that they have no relationship with the committee. The parties also questioned the legitimacy of the TPLF-led regional government, which is leading the initiative of establishing the IRA, including setting up the committee. Kunfe Hadish, communication director of Salsai Wayane Party, disclosed during the joint media briefing that the Tigray government ceased to exist as of 03 October 2022, and the non-existing government cannot establish committee. Mulwork, however, said the ruling TPLF is mandated in the Pretoria Peace Agreement to lead the establishment of the IRA, and that parties' question over the legitimacy of the whole process is unacceptable. He said, despite their absence of the conference, at the conference, they have been allocated a quota in the IRA, and they are expected to submit a list of their representatives and take up positions given to them. He added, if they fail to do so, the quota allocated for them would be divided between the military and the scholars according to a decision made during the conference. The deputy chairperson noted that the federal government, according to the Pretoria Agreement, should have a place in the IRA, adding that a deal would be negotiated accordingly if it does not accept and approve the outcome of the conference. Article 10 of the Pretoria Agreement stipulated that until elections for the Regional Council and the House of People's Representatives are held under the supervision of the Ethiopian National Election Board, the establishment of an inclusive interim regional administration will be settled through political dialogue between the parties. So this is reported on March 4, 2023, but what is said today, I have from BBC. It says Tigray rebels deny forming interim government. Addis Standard reported with evidence now that Tigray rebels deny forming interim government. So yeah, that's the situation. Ethiopia's Tigray People Liberation Front, TPLF rebels have denied establishing a transitional administration in the northern region in accordance with the peace agreement signed in November last year. A local news website reported that TPLF had finalized the process of forming 28-member interim regional administration, which needed approval by the federal government. However, TPLF spokesperson Getachew Reda said the Tigray interim administration would only be established after mutual consultation between the parties to the Pretoria Agreement. So no consultation is carried out, no interim government is formed according to this statement by Getachew Reda. Reports of the transitional government having been established in Tigray without Addis involvement flies in the face of reality. Tigray is only trying to do its part, Mr. Getachew tweeted on Sunday. Major political parties in the region have been calling for an inclusive interim government to steer the region as it tries to recover from the devastating civil war. Last month, the opposition parties in Tigray boycotted a conference on the formation of an interim government, accusing the TPLF of monopolizing the process. So that is the update on interim government formation in Tigray by spokesperson Getachew Reda and senior negotiating member of this region. So credit BBC. So that's a confusing, really, is a confusing. Is there interim government in Tigray? According to the latest we have, no. Residents say at least 3 killed in Guji zone following protests over decision to incorporate Nagele town into newly formed East Borena zone. So Prosperity Party is giving agenda for Oromos, moving cities and rearranging. This is giving agenda, without public consultation or discussion, and now it's costing life. At least 3 civilians were killed, 2 were injured, and several others were arrested in ongoing protest in the Guji zone, southern Oromia, following the establishment of the new zone of East Borena, comprising 10 districts from Borena, Bale, and the Guji zones, residents told Addis Standard. The Chafe Oromia on Monday, February 27, 2023, announced that East Borena zone will be formed as the 21st zone of Oromia, and the former zonal capital of Guji zone, Nagele, would be the seat of the administration of the newly formed East Borena zone, while the administration of the Guji zone were moved to Adola Rede. The decision, which the regional parliament said was made to respond to the long-standing demands of development, security, and the good governance of the people, was outright rejected by the residents of the Guji zone, leading to massive demonstration in several cities and the towns of the zone. Boru Meshi, a native of Guji and a journalist who is closely following the issue, told Addis Standard that the reason for the protests was the announcement the announcement of the incorporation of 3 districts, including Negele, the capital of Guji zone, to the newly established East Borena zone. Negele is a town with a great history among the Guji people, and it is a town that the people and intellectuals have paid a high price for it. It is unacceptable to simply move it to another zone without consulting the people, Boru said. Yes, consultation and consent of the people should be received to do all this, but Prosperity Party doesn't care. Following the decision of establishment of the new zone, protests have been going on in all districts of the Guji zone, including Shakiso town, Bore, and Adola Wayu district since Tuesday, Boru said, adding that 3 people, including 2 students, were shot dead and 1 injured in a clash between community police and the civilians in Bore district on Tuesday. A resident of Shakiso town who didn't want to be named for his safety also confirmed to Addis Standard that normal activities have been suspended and public protests are underway in Shakiso town since last Tuesday. Galchu Boru, another resident and a lawyer by profession, said that the decision to include Nagele town and 3 districts from Guji to the East Borena zone faced strong and wide protest as it is not in accordance with the culture, tradition, and the history of the people. Galchu said the decision to add the capital and the district of Guji zone to another zone is not intended to provide faster services, as the government claims, but a conspiracy to destroy the sense of brotherhood between the communities of the 2 zones, Guji and Borana. Nagele town is the center of culture, tradition, and history of the Guji people, Galchu said, adding that the protests that started in Bule Hora district have spread to all districts of Guji zone following the announcement of the incorporation of Nagele town into the newly established zone. Galchu said the decision was also opposed by intellectuals and the wider community of the Guji zone. He said civilians were also killed in the protest in this district. 4 people were shot and 3 died in the Bore district. I also have information that 1 person was hospitalized after being beaten by police in Adola Wayu district. Many have been arrested. Galchu said that he was informed that the officials of Guji zone were also opposed to the decision of the Chafe Oromia, adding that today a committee sent from the Oromia regional state government is holding discussion with the community together with zone officials. That was on Friday. Attempts by Addis Standard to reach Guji zone administration officials and the security bureau of the zone for further information on the matter were unsuccessful. So without consultation, without public consent, without any discussion, moving cities around and now cause the loss of life and injuries and the detention of others. So, they should talk to the people. Diminishing the people and trashing the people is not good. Give them credit. Discuss what benefit, what risk these moving cities around will bring. This is about Gruage zone crackdown and security forces arrest several senior government officials use activists in Gurage zone following intensified crackdown on dissent. Residents of the restive Gurage zone in southern nations, nationalities and the people's region, SNNPR, told Addis Standard that security forces have intensified arrests, including on senior government officials, the youth and activists since last Tuesday. Manur Rashid, member of Gurage Zone Council, Taje Damak, former chairwoman of the zone's council, Asra Tadele, head of urban trade and enterprise, Sefa Jamal, head of revenue office of Walkite City, Mulugeta Fkade, head of security of Addis sub-city of Walkite City, Fikre Azata, head of the regional industrial center, and Tasfai Minuta, the director of Walkite University's registrar director, are among government officials who were arrested in Walkite by SNNPR Special Forces and the Federal Police. A resident of Walkite who didn't wish to be named told Addis Standard. In addition, leadership of the Gurage Media Network Bayene Wondimu and Zermau Yitbarek and the lawyer and the legal advisor Jambar Abdo have also been arrested in Addis Ababa. The resident said that more than 15 community leaders and youth are in prison, adding that they were arrested because they peacefully struggled for the rights of the Gurage people. According to the resident, the arrests have been going on since Tuesday, and the security forces broke into the homes of the individuals at around 3 a.m. without any warrant and arrested them. Residents of the zone have long complained against heavy-handed measures by regional and federal security forces to contain their continued protest against government-backed cluster of the zone into a new region together with 4 other zones and a special district. The Gurage Zone Council had from the get-go opposed to the restructuring as it was seeking its own regional state status, which it's tabled as far back as November 2018. On 15 February, security forces killed 6 people in Walkite City, while more than 15 were seriously injured after security forces opened fire on protesters who were demonstrating against lack of fresh water carrying empty jerry cans. Following the killing, public and business activities were halted for a week in protest against security forces' crackdown on civilians and later resumed after the mayor of Walkite promised residents to carry out deployment of the SNNPR special forces out of the city. The residents who spoke to Addis Standard about the ongoing arrest on condition of anonymity, however, said the SNNPR special forces are still operating in Walkite wearing federal police uniform. That is illegal, but they don't care. Another resident of the city, Said, whose name has been changed for his safety, said that some of the arrested people were severely beaten by security forces, adding that security forces are currently hunting to arrest more people. According to Said, Taje Damaka, who was the chairman of the Gurage Zone Council and dismissed for rejecting the clustering of the zone into a new region, is 7 months pregnant and detained illegally. Said said the government has been unwilling to answer the demands of the Gurage people peacefully, but instead threatened them, leading ongoing confrontation for 4 years. The Gurage zone, including its capital Wolkite city, has been under a command post since November last year, following consecutive stay-at-home protests as part of the zone's push for its own statehood. So that's the challenge the Gurage is facing, and it's a crackdown, and just for demanding their own statehood, just like others. Human rights remain dire in Eritrea. This is according to United Nations, reported by BBC. The United Nations says Eritrea's record on human rights remain dire and shows no sign of improvement. The United Nations Deputy High Commissioner for Human Rights, Nada al-Nashif, said the withdrawal of Eritrean troops from Ethiopia's northern region of Tigray was very slow and largely incomplete. Still incomplete. She said there were credible reports of torture, arbitrary detention, and enforced disappearance. The Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki recently described such accusation as fantasy. It is estimated that as many as 600,000 people died during the Tigray war. So still Eritreans are not out of Tigray completely, and the human rights situation is very dire. Yeah. But Isaias doesn't care about all these reports. Kenya's First Lady declares prayer against homosexuality. Kenya's First Lady Rachel Ruto has declared national prayers against homosexuality in the country, saying the family unity was under attack. Mrs. Ruto said the country cannot condone the Supreme Court ruling last month that upheld the LGBTQ community's right of association. This is under quotation. We should not even try to talk about LGBTQ. This is a conversation we should not even have in our country, because accepting it is like throwing our morals into the dustbin, the First Lady said on Sunday. Homosexuality remains criminalized in Kenya. The Supreme Court ruled that refusal to allow the LGBT community to register lobby groups in Kenya would violate their rights to association as provided in the Kenyan Constitution. However, the ruling was met with protest from President William Ruto as well as religious leaders in Kenya. Kenya's Attorney General said the government will challenge the court's ruling, insisting that the issue is a matter for public consultation rather than for the courts. This is from Anthony J. Blinken, Secretary of State, on Ghana's National Day. On behalf of the United States of America, I joined President Akufo-Addo and the people of Ghana in celebrating 66 years of independence on March 6. We greatly value the close cooperation between Ghana and the United States on a wide range of shared priorities. Ghana's leadership on the UN Security Council as host of the African Continental Free Trade Area Secretariat, as well as its significant peacekeeping contributions, underscore Ghana's commitment to our shared values of security, democracy, and economic prosperity in Africa and globally. My meeting with President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo at the US-Africa Leaders Summit reaffirmed our strong partnership. We value our shared history and long-standing friendship and look forward to deepening our relationship this year. Please accept our congratulations on this 66th anniversary of Ghana's independence. Okay, the last one for today's reading. There we go. Designation of Syrian military officials. This is Anthony J. Blinken press statement. As the United States and the world comes to the aid of the Syrian people in the aftermath of last month's earthquake, we reminded that their humanitarian suffering long predates this natural disaster. This month marked the 12th year of conflict in Syria, during which the Assad regime has committed innumerable atrocities, some of which rises to the level of war crimes and crimes against humanity. One of these atrocities was a massacre committed in Tadamon, a neighborhood of Damascus, where on April 16, 2013, Ahmad Yusuf, an Assad regime military intelligence officer, murdered at least 41 unarmed civilians. Video evidence of these murders, which were carried out coldly and methodically, was first publicly shared in 2022 after a long and comprehensive investigation by independent researchers. Today, we are taking action to promote accountability for this atrocity. The Department of State designating Ahmad Yusuf a warrant officer in the Syrian Military Intelligence Directorate, pursuant to Section 7031C of the Department of State Foreign Operations and the Related Program Appropriation Act 2023, due to his involvement in a gross violation of human rights, namely extrajudicial killings. As a result of today's action, Yusuf, as well as his wife, Anan Wassouf, and their immediate family members are ineligible for entry into the United States. The United States remembers and honors the victims and the survivors of the Tadamon massacre and the victims of the many other mass killings the Assad regime has carried out. The footage of this massacre, coupled with the ongoing killing and abuse of countless Syrians, serves as a sobering reminder for why countries should not normalize relations with the Assad regime, absent enduring progress toward a political resolution. The United States calls on the Assad regime to cease all violations and abuses of human rights, including but not limited to extrajudicial killings, arbitrary detention, enforced disappearance, and torture. We will continue to support Syrian-led and international efforts to ensure there are consequences for the ongoing human rights violations and abuses committed in Syria. Our support for the brave Syrians who continue to risk their lives to hold the Assad regime accountable will not waver, and we will pursue every measure to find justice for victims and survivors of atrocities and to promote accountability for those responsible, including the Assad regime and its allies. Accordingly, and justice for the crimes, violations, and abuses committed against Syrians are essential to a stable, just, and enduring peace in Syria and the region. So that is a tough stand on human rights violations in Syria. Okay, thank you. That's the end of the reading. Let's share today's videos and end today's presentation. Thank you again for joining me.
የተባበሩት መንግስታት የአዳጊ ሀገራት አምስተኛው ኮንፈረንስ ላይ ተሳትፈዋል። ኮንፈረንሱ ታዲያ ጎን ለጎን ጠቅላይ ሚኒስትር ዶክተር አብይ አህመድ ከተለያዩ ሀገራት መሪዎች ጋር መክረዋል። ከዚያ ባለፈም ከካታሩ ኤሚር ሼህ ታሚም ኢብን ሐማድ አልታኒ ጋር ጠቅላይ ሚኒስትር ዶክተር አብይ አህመድ በዚህ በኳታር ባደረጉት ከውይይቱ ባለፈ በይፋዊ ጉብኝታቸው ማለት ነው ውይይት አድርገዋል። በኢትዮጵያና በካታር መካከል ያለውን የሁለትዮሽ ግንኙነት ማጠናከር በሚያስችሉ ጉዳዮች ላይ መክረዋል። የካታር ባለሀብቶች በኢትዮጵያ ኢንቨስት እንዲያደርጉ ተጠይቋል። ሁለቱ ሀገራት በዓለም አቀፍ ጉዳዮችና በቀጠናዊ ጉዳዮች ላይ ተባብረው መስራት እንደሚገባቸው ነው የተነሳው። ጠቅላይ ሚኒስትሩ ከዚያ ባለፈ
attending the least developed countries meeting or conference in Doha, Qatar,
አድርገዋል።
and inviting, encouraging foreign investment, and meeting with the Sudanese President Borena.
And Kampala.
Once people know
This is Ugandan President Museveni.
Profit and supply goods, those are just software issues. Because what value do we get from blocking people or delaying them with the regulation? So rationality demand will remove them. They will be removed. This is because they were not highlighted. To, like a visa. Visa, what is? Why do you constrain business people with visas? They should travel. They should get what we call multiple re-entry visa. I get a visa, I come back, I come whenever I want to. That's so logic will replace irrationality.
The visit comes at the time when Uganda is facing criticism for its decision not to renew its agreement to host the United Nations Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights beyond its current year term, which ended in February this year.
This is a tough decision.
President Museveni has defended this decision.
This is because we have a Ugandan Human Rights Commission, which is mandated by the Constitution. So having others which are not part of our constitutional system is first of all unnecessary, but also diversionary. Because some of the people may not know the difference. Instead of going to report to where action can be taken, they go to the UN. What can UN do in Uganda? They don't have the powers of enforcement. The ones who have the powers of enforcement are the Uganda National Human Rights Commission. So why divert attention of complainants with
That's an excuse
points? Because for the ordinary people, they may not
to
know
crack
the difference.
down on
Another
Ugandans.
thorny issue is the proposed bill affecting the rights of the LGBTQI community.
This is the mistake of Western countries. They are the ones who are provoking, because they are really, the English word is insufferable. You can't put up with their nonsense. Because Nobody concentrates so much on homosexuals. And nobody is hunting them. But because they come and want to force us to say homosexuality, oh yeah, that's how you get now a backlash. They are the ones who are provoking all this. Our attitude on homosexuality is that these are deviants. They are deviants from the normal. There is the normal, there is the deviation from the normal. But you don't kill. The deviation from normal is also part of nature. You can get somebody born with 6 fingers instead of 5. You can't kill him. But then you don't go around and say, oh, this one, the deviation is the normal. It is the provocation by the Western countries.
He recently spoke to the president of Ukraine.
Our talks were exploratory, but what I told him was that Uganda has no food problem. Because Uganda we have a lot of food, but this is not the case with other countries, so still the problem remains. But I wanted him to know that there are some African countries which are strong economically.
Sophie Mukwena, SABC News, Pretoria.
Couple of videos left.
Hundreds of those displaced by conflicts in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, marched through Goma on Monday, demanding aid and improved conditions in internally displaced camps. This demonstration brought socio-economic activities on the road, known as 1 kilometer, to a halt, with protesters barricading it. We are demonstrating because we knew that our head of state is sending us assistance. The minister and the governor have hijacked this.
The movement
It has been 3
M23.
weeks since we knew it, but nothing has been done.
No
We're
stability at
suffering
all.
and we are hungry. Every day we are burying people who are dying from starvation. Since September 18, we have received nothing, no food apart from only 3 sites which must benefit from assistance. So our children are dying of starvation because we have nothing to give them. That is why we are here to show our displeasure. We ask our government if it's not able to give us something to eat, then they have to end this war so that we can return home. Many of the displaced people here fled clashes between the loyalist army and the M23 RDF rebels in Rutshuru territory. The conflict has killed thousands and left many displaced, some moving north to the city of Goma. The predominantly Tutsi M23 rebellion, which had been dormant for nearly a decade, resumed fighting in late 2021.
There's a continuous chaos in DRC. Just no stability at all, and the people are suffering displacement and continued protests as a sign of instability. It just become like Israeli-Palestinian issue, just in a different sense anyway. Let me conclude today's presentation by saying I am really encouraged by the amount of humanitarian aid heading to Borena and other impacted areas. This is from individuals, companies, and the government agencies, from the diaspora communities. So these are the products of wide media coverage. So we should appreciate all the medias. Oromia Media Network, Oromia 11, Simbirtu Media, Shabo Media, Concerned Citizens Media, Ethio 360 Media, and others for covering the crisis took place in Borena Guji and other areas. Even though we couldn't save the the millions of livestock lost in that region. But now I see the bright, I see the hope of saving the remaining animals and humanity. So thank you everyone who shared the news, who did wide coverage, who gave wide coverage for this crisis, and those who contributed, from their limited resource to these people all over the world now, in the United States, in uh, Canada, and also back home, individuals and businesses. So we should appreciate who participated in the fundraising and the media coverage. So that's a great deal, and we should continue until we make sure no hunger and no death due to the challenges we have in Borena and other areas. So that should be, the fundraising should continue to make sure, and the advocacy for that purpose should continue. The other thing is Prosperity Party. If you want to divide Oromia zones into different, if you want to move in and out to the other zones, please talk to the people. Don't disrespect them. Talk to them. Don't create chaos. Don't create, agenda. Then start killing them, arresting them. This is illegal. You know that. The Constitution will not allow you. So the Prosperity Party, stop disrespecting the people you are leading. The people are under your leadership until you are removed. So please respect them, talk to them, have a discussion, and tell them the reason why you are moving one city to another. So due to this, illegal incorporation, now we lost human lives, and some in detention center, and some facing, torture. So that must stop. That's all I'm gonna say for today. Thank you for coming back. I will be back with another update. So long, everyone, and be safe.